When we think of Noah's Ark, most of us picture a cute children's story, right? Pairs of cartoon animals on a big boat. But what if it's way, way more than that? What if it's one of the most profound pictures of refuge and salvation in the entire Bible? Let's dig in and see how this ancient story of a world washed away speaks directly to us today. It's so easy for us to look back and think, oh, of course I would have listened. But let's be honest with ourselves. The story suggests it wasn't that simple at all. So let's try, just for a moment, to really put ourselves in their shoes. Okay, so try to imagine a world where the very idea of rain falling from the sky was totally foreign. A world where life, even with all its problems, just felt predictable, normal. Just picture it. Day in, day out, the sun's shining. People are going about their business. And over there, on dry land, miles from any large body of water, this colossal wooden thing is slowly taking shape. You'd hear the scraping of wood, the echo of hammers. It had to be the strangest thing anyone had ever seen. Oh, the mockery must have been relentless. You can just hear them, right? People pointing, laughing, calling Noah a crazy old man. To them, he wasn't a man of God. He was building a monument to his own delusion. He was completely out of step with his entire culture, totally alone in what he was doing. And this is absolutely crucial. The ark was not Noah's clever escape plan. He didn't just look around at the world and think, maybe I should build a boat, just in case. No, this was a divine provision, a rescue mission designed by God himself before a single drop of rain ever fell. I mean, God gave him every single detail, the exact measurements, the type of wood to use, the layout of the 3 decks, and even the detail of having only a single door. This wasn't Noah's project, it was God's blueprint for salvation, and Noah was the faithful contractor. This completely reframes that whole long construction period, doesn't it? It wasn't just building time. Every single day that ark sat there on dry land, it was like a silent sermon, a giant wooden warning sign that something was coming, and an unspoken invitation to turn back. It was a massive symbol of God's incredible patience. But mercy, as this story powerfully shows, has a time limit. Eventually, the construction stopped. The animals arrived. Noah and his family went inside. And then came the moment that changed absolutely everything. Can you even imagine that moment? The sky gets dark, that first drop of water hits the dry dust, then another. And suddenly, all that laughter just dies. It's replaced by confusion, then a growing worry, and then just sheer terror as the water starts to rise. The warning they'd been laughing about for decades was suddenly horribly real. In that moment of panic, all eyes would have turned to the one place of hope on the horizon. But the time to make a choice was over. The door was shut. The way to safety was sealed. And the Bible is so specific about this detail. It says it was the Lord who shut the door. This shows us the two sides of God's nature so clearly. He is the God of unbelievable mercy, who provides a way out, but he is also the God of perfect justice, who has to deal with sin. The very same hand that offered the invitation was the hand that closed the door. That was it, one. There were no other options, no backup arks, no lifeboats, no mountain high enough to save them. God provided one way, and one way only. To be saved, you had to be inside that one refuge, through that one door. Okay, so this is where this incredible ancient story suddenly becomes intensely personal for every single one of us. Because the ark was never just about a flood. It was a physical picture, a shadow, if you will, of a much greater spiritual reality. The entire event was basically a prophecy built out of wood and water. It was a giant, living, breathing signpost pointing thousands of years into the future, to God's ultimate plan of salvation. Let's just look at this side by side. It's so clear. The ark was a physical shelter from a physical judgment. Jesus Christ is the spiritual shelter from a final spiritual judgment. God prepared the first one on earth, and he sent the second one from heaven. The parallel is just undeniable. Remember that one door on the ark? That single entrance? Well, that was no accident. Jesus himself makes the connection crystal clear. He doesn't say, I am a door, as in one of many. He says, I am the door. Just like there was only one way into the safety of the ark, Jesus says he is the one exclusive way to be saved. And notice this really important distinction. The ark didn't magically stop the storm, did it? No, it carried Noah and his family safely through the storm. In the very same way, following Christ doesn't promise a life with no problems. What it does promise is a secure refuge in the middle of the storm. And the poetry of this is just beautiful. Think about the very material, the wood. The wood of the ark carried life, floating it safely above the waters of death and judgment. Centuries later, the wood of the cross would carry the weight of our sin, defeating death itself and bringing us into the safety of God's grace. So, what does all of this mean for us, right here, right now? It means the pattern we saw in Noah's day, it's happening again. The story is not over. You know, in our world, the idea of a final judgment often gets laughed at, just like the idea of a world-ending flood was laughed at back then. But the point of this warning isn't to scare anyone. It's a compassionate call to wake up, to realize that history is headed somewhere, and to understand that God's deepest desire is not to judge, but to save. So how do you get into this refuge? It's the exact same way people got into the ark. It's really just 2 steps. First, you have to believe that God's warning is real. And second, you have to humbly trust that the provision God has made, Jesus, is your only hope. It's not about being good enough. It's about simple belief and trust. And that really is the heart of it all. No one on that ark earned their spot. They weren't saved because they were better people than their neighbors. They were saved because they took shelter in the refuge God provided. In the same way, we aren't saved by our own goodness. We are saved entirely because of the goodness and the sacrifice of Jesus. And here is the best news in this whole story. Today, right now, unlike in those final moments of Noah's world, the door is not yet shut. The invitation to find refuge in Christ is still going out. God's grace is still available. The refuge is ready and waiting for anyone who wants to come in. Just like in Noah's time, history is moving toward a final moment. And that's not meant to be a threat, but a promise that one day everything will be made right. So the story leaves us with the most important decision we could ever make. The door is open now. The only real question left is, will you step inside?